If you're playing guitar every day, but you still feel like you're not getting any better, it's not because you're untalented or unmotivated or undisciplined. It's because you're probably making one of these 3 mistakes that's sabotaging your progress. Hey, I'm Russ. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Hope you're having a great week. And let's face it, no matter where you are in your musical journey, no matter your skill level, we all get stuck for any number of reasons. I know I've gotten stuck at different points in my journey for all of these reasons. I've made all of these mistakes. So I've been there, done that. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about what those mistakes are and how to get out of them. Mistake number 1, no goal. This might seem a little bit of a no-brainer, but if you haven't defined a specific thing to aim at, you're not going to hit it. There's all kind of motivational stuff out there about if you don't aim at anything, you'll hit it every time. As cliche as it is, that's really true in music. If you don't have a goal, something that you're aiming towards, and it has to be more specific than just get better. Now, it can be as simple as get better at a specific thing, like get better at alternate picking, or get better at scales, or get better at palm muting. You have to name something specific enough that you can recognize it when you get there. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't a willpower problem. A lot of the time, if you don't have a goal set, you're not making progress, and you're thinking to yourself, I just don't have the willpower to stick with it. That's not necessarily true. If you haven't picked a goal, you don't have anything to direct your willpower towards. Discipline needs a direction. If you don't have a direction to go, something to shoot towards, you're not going to have any discipline because you don't have anything to fuel that discipline. So pick a goal. Get better at picking. Get better at intervals. Get better at soloing. Now that might be a little bit broad, but it's something you could feel when it happens, and then document where you are, document your progress, something so that you can know for sure when you've hit that goal. Sometimes those deadlines are built in, like if you were working towards a specific event or a show, or want to play at your kid's wedding or recital or an open mic night or whatever, insert here, that deadline is there, so you have to know, I need to be able to do this by this time. But if there's not something outside of you built in, then set a goal like, hey, in the next 30 days, I want to get better at picking, or I want to get better at this particular scale, or this particular style. And then that's your starting point. Okay, this is what I'm shooting for. And you can go from there. Mistake number 2 kind of comes out of mistake number 1, because mistake number 2 is no path. Now, if you have a goal in mind, but you don't have a path to get there, kind of leaves you a little bit lost, right? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I should be smart enough to figure this out. And I disagree. If you've never been told how to figure that out, you're not going to be able to figure that out, because it's not a question of being smart enough. Has someone shown you the technique, shown you the path, the method to see where you are, see where you want to be, and understand what kind of bridge has to get built in between the two, right? You don't wake up one day knowing that, I need to do this, this, and this. You have to learn that process. This is where you need to find someone outside of you. Find a coach, a peer, whoever it is, a second set of eyes, someone who can show you the gap that you can't see for yourself. Okay, that gap between where you are, where you want to get to, and what happens in between. It doesn't have to be me, but this is the type of coaching that I do, is to show you not just here's where you are, here's where you need to go, but to teach you how to build that bridge in between so that eventually you don't need me. Now, mistake number 3 is kind of a 2 sides of the same coin. First is you're playing all the time, but you're not making any progress. What generally happens here is you're play practicing, is what I like to call it. Meaning your guitar's in your hand, you're doing stuff, but you're not really working. You're noodling, you're not directed, you're not deliberate, you're not focused on what it is you're working on. Now, that's not to say that that's a waste. Sometimes sitting down and just noodling is what you need. I do it all the time. But I don't count it as practicing. And that's the differentiation you need to make for yourself, is just because your instrument's in your hand and you're making sounds doesn't mean you're practicing, doesn't mean you're making progress. It just means you're playing. And that's fine. Sometimes you just need to sit down and play. Sometimes you just need to sit down and cut loose and have some fun. Play, sing, whatever. I get that. I do it. It's healthy. You should do it. Have some just time for expression. But don't count it as practice. Okay? That's the thing. Don't count it as practice. You're playing. That's fine. The whole point is to play music. But be careful about counting it as practice if you're not actually working towards making progress, okay? The other side of that coin is inconsistency. So let's say you have a goal, you see the path, you know what it is you're working on, but you're inconsistent. You practice 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, maybe a binge session every so often of 2 or 3 hours, but you're not consistent. And that is the whole problem. Inconsistency kills progress. Full stop. Inconsistency kills progress. Because the progress you make in that session, that might be a great session. It might be the perfect practice session. You sit down, you have a goal, you have your metronome, you're doing the things, you're making progress, you feel really good about it. You document your progress. So you're like, okay, here's where I'm at today, here's where I was at yesterday, you can compare. Check all the boxes, and then you put it down for a week. All that progress dies in that gap. You're not gonna build anything if you put one block down, one practice block down, and then leave it alone. It's gonna take forever because you're just not stacking practice blocks on top of each other. Now, the thing I want you to hear in this, if you're practicing and you're really confident in your practice and you feel like you do really good work, or you're playing every day, or whatever it is, you're not making progress, it's not a talent problem. I believe talent isn't real. Okay, talent is the excuse we use for people whose story we don't know, right? But anyone you've ever seen play music started at 0. Now, maybe there's some exceptions for, savants and prodigies and things like that, but those are the exception, not the rule, okay? You and I started at the same place on guitar, 0. I wasn't born being able to play the way I can play. I worked at it. The good news for you means you can work at it and get to where you need to go, get to where you want to go, and there's no excuse holding you back. There's no talent problem, okay? I'm going to reframe that. It's not a talent problem. It's not a talent ceiling. I know it's not a talent ceiling because I've broken through what I thought was a talent ceiling several times. It's hard. It's discouraging. It's frustrating. But I also know you don't have to stay there because I didn't stay there. I figured out and I did what I had to do to move forward, to not stay where I was at, not stay under that ceiling and tell myself, this is where I live now, this is all my talent will let me do. That was just a lie I told myself, or that I listened to for a time, until I figured out what I needed to do to get out of it. And it took longer than it would now because I have more tools. That's why I'm here, trying to give you some of those tools so you don't have to stay stuck as long, and hopefully not get stuck as many times. One of those fixes is to figure out what progress is, where you're at, where you need to go, and what you have to do in between. And then getting consistent with that practice, okay? Remember, play practice isn't practice. You're playing, okay? There's a difference. There's a space for both. But if you're gonna practice, sit down and decide what you're doing. Say, I'm gonna work on this right now for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, however much time you have, and then get consistent with it. Some of the most encouraging progress I've ever made was when I was working in music stores. I would go into the acoustic room on my lunch break, and just for 10 minutes, at the end of my lunch break every day, I would sit, I would pull my phone out with a metronome on it, and I would just practice a scale or two, just something specific. Because at the time I was like, okay, I really want to get a little more fluid with my playing. I want to be smoother, get tighter with my picking. And so 10, 15 minutes at the end of my lunch break, I would sit down and just yes, it seems boring, but I had that goal in front of me of this is what I want to work on, this is how I'm going to get there. And that consistent practice, I would notice a difference every weekend at a show because I'd be able to sit down and play and do something I couldn't do the week before because I had that consistent block during the week, 2 or 3 days in a row, and I made progress even with a tiny little window. Okay, I wasn't sitting and practicing for 3 hours every day. I didn't have that kind of time. I was working a job. But I was sitting down 10 or 15 minutes, one goal, one thing to work on, focused, deliberate, moving towards that goal. But that's different from just sitting down and just going. Just noodling. Now that's fun. I like that. It's fun. The tactile, just feeling the strings and making something sound cool. Great. But I don't count that as practice. That's just noodling and just letting off steam. Remember, none of these 3 mistakes means you're untalented or that you suck at guitar. It just means no one ever showed you the difference between playing and practicing, or the importance of having a specific goal, or how to build a path to where you want to be. And that's okay. I've been there. I've been stuck before. I spent a long time stuck before on multiple occasions. What got me out of it was I set a specific goal. I found the path I needed. Sometimes that meant finding a coach who could show me the gap between where it was I wanted to be and where I was at that time. But then I got deliberate about how to make progress, and I got consistent about building that progress. And that's when I started to see real results and make progress and get out of that kind of stuck rut of playing all the time and just not getting any better. So, point being, I see you. You got this. I believe in you. Hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments what resonated with you, and I will see you again in another video real soon. Till then, keep rocking.